So, there's a verse in the Bible where three major translations say three different things. One says someone is well known to the apostles, another says outstanding among the apostles, and a third translation even changes the person's gender. The verse is Romans 16:7, and the person at the center of the debate is Junia. Now let's look at the translations. The English Standard Version says, "Greet Andronicus and Junia. They are well known to the apostles." The New International Version says, "They are outstanding among the apostles." But the Revised Version says something even stranger. "Greet Andronicus and Junius." So now I have two questions. Is the name Junia or Junius? And are these people apostles or just known by the apostles? Let's start with the name. The first debate, Junia or Junius. The difference between Junia and Junius matters because Junia is a female name and Junius would be a male name. But in the original Greek manuscripts, the difference between these two names is basically an accent mark. And here's the key problem. The earliest Greek manuscripts didn't have accent marks at all. So the manuscripts themselves don't directly tell us whether the name was male or female. But when scholars look at ancient names, the evidence becomes pretty clear. Junia was actually a very common female name in the Roman world. It shows up all over inscriptions and historical records. But Junius, as a male name, is extremely rare. Scholars can barely find examples of it. And there's another important detail. The reading Junius doesn't start appearing, you know how I said that accent mark? It doesn't start appearing in manuscripts until the 12th or 13th century. That's over 1,000 years after Paul wrote Romans. So today, most scholars agree that the original name was probably Junia, meaning Paul was referring to a woman. But that leads to the bigger debate. The Greek phrase Paul uses can be translated two different ways. Option 1, outstanding among the apostles. That would mean Junia and Andronicus are part of the group of apostles. Option 2, they are well known to the apostles. That would mean they are respected believers who the apostles know, but they are not apostles themselves. Some scholars, like Dan Wallace, argue that grammar supports the translation well known to the apostles. But other scholars argue that the most natural reading is actually outstanding among the apostles. And interestingly, some early Christians read the verse that way. For example, John Chrysostom commented on this verse and said, "Oh, how great is the devotion of this woman, that she should be counted worthy of the appellation of apostle." So Chrysostom clearly thought Junia was both a woman and an apostle. Personally, I think the name question is basically settled. The historical evidence strongly points to Junia being a woman. Later revisions of basically all English translations I can think of drop Junius for Junia. But the second question is harder. Did Paul mean outstanding among the apostles or well known to the apostles? Scholars still debate it. And honestly, the theological implications of that question are a much bigger discussion. But Romans 16:7 is a great example of something important. Sometimes translational differences aren't about mistakes. They're about real decisions translators have to make when the original language can be understood more than one way. And this verse is one of the clearest examples of that in the New Testament.